So just to pick up on Nick's overview, this is a work in progress. We've never done this before. We're learning as we go. We've learned an awful lot in 9 hours. However, we have already committed to doing the next 24 hours of PBL Plus, and it will be in early October. By that time, we will be a whole lot more well-versed, and at that time, we know we're going to be asking many of the presenters from today to come back and do encore presentations, and of course all of their work will be elevated as well, so we'll all learn together. So that's important to look forward to. But in the meantime, we are launching the beta testing. Actually, we're continuing the beta testing of our website, pblplus.org, and that's plus spelled out. If anybody in the audience is interested in bringing this testing to their schools and having their kids work with us to trial out our web model, just send Nick an email. I think everybody has Nick Salmon's email or mine. Many of you have gotten here through me, and that will just make our emerging web model even better. So that's the end of the advertorials. Let me launch this discussion. And so, first of all, we have a number of people, educators, leaders, one student from the Dalton Academy in Beijing, which is part of the affiliated school of Peking University, and which I always tell all of my clients, and no offense to anybody else in the room right now, but I always tell them that this is the best high school in the world. And maybe they'll demonstrate that, but it basically is because the last year of students is 80% project-based learning that is all self-initiated by students. And that turns schooling upside down right away. And they've even taken it further to include things like students running the courses and teaching the teachers. And not only on the subjects they're supposed to be working on, but on subjects they happen to be passionate about. So they may tell you more about that. The other speaker today is Joel Grimm, and I'm not seeing you, Joel. Can you just say hi that you're here? Is your speaker working? Joel?
I'll take care of that, Frank.
Okay, so Joel Grimm is with the Beaverworks Makerspace at MIT. And Beaverworks is set up along the model of MIT's Lincoln Labs, and it's their 50 to 75-year-old research center, and where they have makerspaces sprinkled all throughout the office and research areas. But Joel runs one on the MIT campus, and what's particularly important to us as K-12 educators is that every year they run a phenomenal program for middle school and high school students from across the country, bringing them to MIT, putting them up in the dormitories in normal years, and having them do very, very deep STEM robotics and IT projects, like build an autonomous race car. So my sense is that Joel's got like the greatest after hours program in the world. So let's roll it out. Spencer, if you could introduce your crew, and then we'll have Joel jump in and introduce himself. And maybe by that time we'll have a video or we'll have a sound for him. Okay, you're on, Spencer.
Hi, everyone. I'm Spencer Fowler, and I'm the CEO and superintendent of the affiliated high school of Peking University's Dalton Academy. And next to me is...
Hi, everyone. I'm Aileen Lee. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer for the education group of the affiliated high school of Peking University.
Dr. Gary?
I'm Gary Menacucci, and I'm the Chair of Social Sciences at the Dalton Academy.
Hakim, can you unmute yourself and introduce yourself? You gotta unmute it.
Nick might have to do that. While they're fishing for the button. So we'll let Hakim introduce himself, and then I'll just interject.
Hakim.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Hakim Al-Mikdad. I'm a Dalton Academy's alumni student, and now I study in Northwestern, first-year student.
Okay, and so to add a little spice to this, Hakeem is sitting in Qatar right now.
Right.
Aileen and Spencer are sitting in Northern Ontario, Canada.
Right.
And Gary, I'm not clear where you're sitting right now.
Reno, Nevada.
There you go. Okay, so much for a school in Beijing. All right, it's your floor.
All right. So we're going to share our screen so we can sort of front load and share with you a little bit more about the school. So this all starts making more sense for you.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. A moderator goofed. Could we have Joel jump in and just say hello so we've registered his face and his name? And then what we're going to try to do is interweave the two of your presentations. Joel?
All right, that sounds very exciting. But my name is Joel Grimm. I'm the Beaverworks manager and technical staff at Lincoln Laboratory. As Frank kind of spoiled the spoiler alert there, right? The Beaverworks is very much a project-based institute that we run at MIT and leverage a lot of the MIT resources and scientists and engineers to help with these programs. So.
Okay, great. All right. Back to you, Dalton.
All right, great. Just going to share the screen. All right, here we go. So we come from the affiliated high school, Peking University's Dalton Academy, which is a very unique school going into its 10th year of operation. We're a project school, we're an experimental school. So we're meant to lead the reform in China, which is also leading the reform internationally. And with me today, I'm honored to have Hakim Al-Haddad, who's our first Access Scholarship student who's at Northwestern Qatar, Aileen Lee, and Dr. Menekuchi, whose courses really empower the students to lead then their own projects around the world. Our school has gained a lot of attraction. I'm sure you'll notice that tall gentleman next to me.
Might be covered.
Can you see him?
Yes.
7'6". Any guesses on who that is? Yao Ming. And why would Yao Ming be interested in our school? Because he recognizes that it's a school that really allows students to be their true and authentic self and to pursue projects and initiatives beyond the school. So beyond a standardized exam or papers, whereby they're able to make meaningful impact. So this is something that was really inspiring to him. Our school right now serves 300 students from Beijing and across the country. We do not use any standardized curriculum and we do not teach to any standardized exams. So we're really free to do anything we want so that the teachers and the learners work together as colleagues to design courses that really inspire critical thinking and really allow us to remove the walls of the school and to work with people around the world in real time to tackle and to resolve real world issues. So something special about our school is that we employ people like Dr. Menekuchi who are experts in their field. We hire people from academia, and we've also hired people from industry, including doctors, lawyers, architects, and even a space engineer. So trying to bridge and marry that world from academia and industry. And we've been fortunate that in this experiment, we've had students and faculty who routinely publish both academic and non-academic papers, and also students who've accomplished up to 7 patents. So we have students who start and run very successful companies, multi-million-dollar companies. But to us, the most impressive thing that we've seen happen is this project that was initiated by students who participated in Dr. Gary's course, that were working with refugees in the Middle East that wanted to do more than just the academic field work, but to then bring someone to our program, to our school, because we believe that was the ultimate test. So we believe, and we share this notion that our school is the best program in the world because it allows each person to be their best version of themselves. And so we were fortunate that with the help of Aileen and Dr. Menekuchi and others, that we were able to bring Hakim over. And now we have our second Access Scholarship student to work with us, to learn with us, to grow with us, and then to set them off to then go to schools like Northwestern. So I'm going to now just segue into Dr. Menekuchi's piece, where for us, the teaching and the learning it has to extend beyond the walls of the school. We need to see that the faculty are spearheading or leading that experiment of how do we redefine or re-engineer education, but also how are they staying current and relevant in their own field, and how do they then connect students to those projects? How do we get students into the labs? How do we get students into the different fields and different areas to then try to better the world? And if you look at our current situation, I think that we're definitely on the right path, and more schools need to look at education this way. And if they don't have that expertise within their school, then I think we need to look at, again, how do we lower the walls and connect students to different people and to different resources, as opposed to buying the latest and greatest 3D printers and laser cutters. We need to be connecting students to other people, architects, to people from the UN, different embassies, and projects that are really going to change and better the world. And on that note, I'm going to pass the microphone over to Dr. Gary Menacucci.
One of the most exciting aspects of our Chinese public high school is that 2 times during the year, the whole school shuts down and all students and faculty engage in projects outside the classroom. And some of these projects take place outside of China. And in the last 4 years, one of the opportunities that I've had is to create a course that responds to the refugee crisis in the Middle East, and specifically the crisis caused by the 2011 war in Syria, which has resulted in half the entire population of Syria, over 22 million people, being either internally displaced or external refugees in surrounding countries, including Turkey, Lebanon, and Jordan. So the project-based learning aspect of my course on refugee studies was to pair my students in the course in Beijing with refugee students and marginalized students in the Middle East, and then taking my whole classroom of students to Jordan to engage in mutual exchange and learning with refugee students. One of the advantages of being a Chinese public high school is that it gave us unprecedented access to the Chinese embassy staff in Jordan, and through the Chinese embassy to other Jordanian government offices that deal with refugee issues, especially the Jordanian Higher Population Council, with non-governmental organizations, especially the UN, direct access to United Nations the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, with United Nations Works and Relief Administration that works with Palestinian refugees, and with multiple NGOs and refugee centers throughout Jordan. We were able to pair our students with their peers in refugee centers, like you see in the pictures here, before we traveled to Jordan, and then engage in joint projects with refugee students once we were in Jordan. We had unprecedented access to refugee camps and schools in refugee camps, especially UNRWA schools, and also with refugee centers, not only in Amman, but in Mafraq, on the border with Syria, and Irbid. So one of the initiatives that came out of the first class that we had in Jordan was our students wanted to initiate some kind of meaningful project that would respond to the educational needs of students in Jordan, and our students pushed us and our school to establish a scholarship program for refugee students and marginalized students in Jordan. And now we are in the third year of this successful project that was initiated by our students. And I think we can talk more about this in the Q&A part, but we'd like to show you some of the extended results of this project. Aileen, I give it to you.
Our first students that actually went on the inaugural class to, was part of the inaugural class to going to Jordan. And he is on a mission to do better, and he wants to get into international relations. And so this is his story.
Hi everyone, my name is Shabo. I'm currently a junior at Tufts University studying international relations, also 2017 graduate of PKU High School, and a member of the first ever trip to Jordan where we study refugee crisis with many local organizations. I really want to highlight the real world experiences that I was able to get through this program by talking to refugees, by seeing what their lives is like inside of refugee camps and in many Jordanian communities, and by hearing their life stories. I was really able to develop a strong understanding of the refugee crisis that I'm not going to get in any classroom settings, probably in anywhere in the world. I was really thankful to these real world experiences as they provide a great foundation for my future studies international relations and spark my interest in the refugee crisis and as well as other development issues in general. This past summer, I just completed my position as planning committee member for the UN Civil Society Conference, where I work on many projects that aims to strengthen global civil society engagement in the sustainable development goals. And this real world experiences is really crucial in making me a better advocate for these development issues, as I'm always reminded of what's the real need of these people and what their lives are like on the ground.
And here's another example of the two students that had experience going to Jordan.
Hi everyone, my name is Yanyi.
And I'm Isha.
We are the 2018 graduate of Dalton Academy, and I went to Jordan in 2018.
I went there in 2017.
So now I'm a sophomore in sophomore college in Pennsylvania in the US. I was really inspired by the Jordan trip I went on 2018. From that trip, I not only learned more about the history of the Middle East area, but I also gained a better understanding of the refugee crisis. So now while in college, next semester, I'm planning to take a class in the Peace and Conflict Studies program in my school. I'm really looking forward to learn more about the refugee crisis, but also about human rights and the normal lives of people living in the other part of the world.
For me, one of the highlights of the trip is that we went to Baka camp, which is like a Palestinian refugee camp. And there we actually see how people are living their normal life and how this refugee problem is like very long lasting. It could cause even more problems in the future. And for right now, I'm studying sociology at UC San Diego. I was inspired by this trip that I went to Jerusalem this summer. That experience was so fascinating, so mind-blowing. And I'm also taking Arabic right now. It is pretty difficult, but it's also pretty fun.
So next we're going to look at the timeline, and I'm going to go over a little bit about the process of the scholarship. And so when it started in 2017 and after the trip, and how the scholarship got approved, it was really all hands on deck. And when I mean all hands on deck, this collaboration process wasn't just the students and administration, but really a lot of the faculty, the college counselors, the admissions, everyone had to have all hands on deck. So when we went in 2018 and to meet the applicants, and I actually got to go to Jordan and see the whole process, be a part of the process and see having the students do the interviews, the students being engaged with all the applicants themselves as well, and then being a part of the process. And then actually when I met Hakim, knowing that, you know, he was the one, then we kind of had to go back and share that information and say, okay, well, this is why we think that he's the one, and you know, how are we going to help him? How is this transition process going to be successful, not only for Hakim, but for our school? And then making sure that the parents were aware that we're going to have a student from Jordan that's going to be in our community. So really, we had to get every single person's buy-in, and you know, all the constituents and the board. And so it goes way beyond than just, okay, the students and the teachers who are teaching them. There's such a big picture that's involved. And we had the college counselors had to do a lot of preparation. When we found out that this was approved, right away we started talking to universities that would visit us once a year. We already told them that this was happening, so that when Hakim did arrive on our campus, this wasn't a new story for them. They had already been hearing that we're a school, we're the first and only high school in China that's doing this, that has an applicant like this. So again, you know, we did phone calls, we did emails, we did a lot of connecting Hakim with the campuses. We had to research what scholarships were available, and there were a lot of blocks. We learned that there wasn't a lot of scholarships, full ride scholarship for refugees. We learned that Syrian visas or visas for Syrians were really hard to get. And so that schools didn't really allow that. So it took a long time for us to conduct the research, and really, how are we going to prepare Hakim for the testings? Because these schools still want to know, how is he performing? We had to do talks with SATs, ACT people to see if he could get a funding for his testing. We had to find out what country could he go to do the English testing, and who would exempt the fees. And then we finally talked with Duolingo, and we found out that those were possibilities. So not only is it that you're working with the community within Beijing, but your extended network outside of Beijing, just to find out the opportunities. And so after a lot of legwork, we were able to find and talk to someone from Northwestern University in Qatar. And they were very, you know, impressed with the story, and they met Hakim, and, you know, they loved his story as well. And knowing that, you know, we were able to give a student an opportunity like this, they also bought into what we were doing. And now, with Hakim being a success story, you know, we go back to the drawing table and said, okay, well, what could have worked better? How can we improve the process? How can we improve the experience for our students, for our families, for our scholarship recipient, for our teachers? And, you know, the teachers came to us. The teachers were like, you know, it's not fair to the student to put so much pressure. When Hakim came to us, there was only 1 year, his senior year that he was with us. University-wise, you're applying in the fall. So that really didn't give him much of an opportunity to, you know, create a story or the experiences with the students that he was working with, and relationships with the teachers who were writing his letters of recommendation. And he didn't get enough time with all our curriculum. It would be new for him. So then after going back to the drawing table, we decided that the scholarship should be extended to a 2-year program, and the next recipients should be joining us for their junior year and not their senior year. And so when we go down the timeline, that's what we came up with in 2019. And then the second round of applications happened, and again, going, who should be a part of the experience? You know, we include the students again. We include a different member of the admissions team. We included other faculty members. And so we try to get a diverse team of people who are going to be a part of the application process and the scholarship process.
This was a really high-risk project. And like Aileen said, it took so many people to then figure out, including the people from the Chinese embassy, entry-exit people, how do you get someone like Hakim with a Syrian passport out of Jordan into China, and then will our educational system then provide that opportunity where he'll be extremely successful, and not even thinking that he's still going to have to do the SAT, ACT, IELTS, TOEFL, and all these other exams, which is not going to be something that he's going to do well at, because he hasn't had those opportunities. He hasn't had that educational support, that financial support that we see that our students, they master it, they've aced it. You know, they understand the complexities and nuances, and that's where they thrive. You could throw them into that, they're going to do very well. But you have someone like Hakim, who's this outlier and crushing it in our system. He had a very short window to be very successful, but there was no, we were all in with this experiment, with this project. Hakim couldn't then just go back and return to Jordan. No, we only had one option. He had to be successful, or we're in big trouble, you know? And like Aileen said, all hands on deck. If it wasn't that case and people didn't buy in and didn't care, then I don't know what would have happened. We would have found ourselves in trouble. So it's worked out really well, but we've learned from this experiment. How can we lengthen it so that that person can come in? We know they're going to be successful in our institution, but then we also have to be cognizant of these standardized exams that they need to take, which also makes it really challenging, and also troubling that that's still something that these universities care about, or a box that they still take today.
And another thing, after this, you know, Gary was able to go back and then talk to the Ministry of Education there. And then now our school not only is the first and only high school, you know, outside of, in China, that has this type of access scholarship, but now we're also the only high school that is accredited and had gained the equivalency of the Taojihi, which is their university entrance evaluation. So this has been, you know, such an achievement for us, because now we can say that we're the first school of this and the first school of that. And yeah, so it's really big. That's something that we're being recognized, and this is really rewarding for what we've done, to have gain that recognition from other universities, so that it gives opportunities for our students who in any chance would want to go to Jordan for university, has the right and has that opportunity to go to Jordan for university if that's what they choose.
This is Frank. Can I jump in? I've known the story as it was emerging. Could you share what the impact of Hakim's presence in the school building on other students? I mean, in a lot of ways, this was a humanitarian gesture to serve him, but I think there's an underside to it, an other side, which is what better way to bring Middle Eastern understanding to China?
I'd say, well, Hakim might want to share the story, but I'll add a little first. I think, well, for us, part of the buy-in was like, think of this opportunity that's going to give you guys, you know, because without this opportunity, I don't think our students would have wanted to learn Arabic. After this, we did have a lot of students that wanted to learn Arabic, and it's not a language that we offer in our school, but, you know, to inspire that to go outside again, learning outside of our school, I think it means so much. I think the students really appreciated that. The teachers were the ones that came to me, you know, very concerned the first week when Hakim arrived and said, we don't know how to teach him math, if this is what we're going to do and how we're going to do this. But 3 months after, they were crying tears of happiness and saying that Hakim had touched their lives. And, you know, even for me, like if I don't experience, if I don't have another experience like this, like I know that we've changed one's life so much that that's all I can ask for. Like I can almost die as a happy person knowing that we changed someone in this way.
Yeah, I would even argue that the impact that Hakim had on all of us is probably greater than the impact that we've had on him. He's completely changed, and he's completely re-engineered our whole education and program just by being there. You know, we could no longer do things the same because we were catering to students from China, just local national students. And here we have someone coming in from a different culture, a different background, different beliefs, a different language. And how could we then accommodate him so that he's going to be successful educationally, but also emotionally, socially. So it was an amazing experience and opportunity for us that forced us to grow and forced us to learn and forced us to reflect. And there were some initial behaviors and attitudes that were scary because people just didn't know. They didn't have that education. There wasn't that connection. But by Hakim being there, he was able to educate and he was able to allow us that opportunity to grow and to change. So it was really the most incredible thing that we don't want to let go of. And Aileen says when we talk about it, it's such a moving thing because you're all in. And that's why we say that this is the most exciting thing that we've ever developed or uncovered that we want to continue with.
And I would just add that as of now, there's been about 40 or 50 of our students that have participated in the trips to Jordan, and it's had a multiplier effect. So one of the problems with refugee youth is that they feel completely abandoned and isolated from the outside world. And one of the effects of our students is that all of them have maintained sort of lifelong contacts with their peers and helped reduce the isolation and the abandonment that that refugee youth feel. So we should probably have Hakim.
Yes, Hakim, please.
Tell his story.
Okay, my story goes back to 2011 when I was 10 years old, when the civil war started in Syria. So by that time, like things were really, really difficult, and we had to leave the country. We had like to leave my country. So me and my family, we had to flee Syria, and we end up like escaping to Jordan. We end up in a refugee camp, and then after that we moved out, and then we settled in the south of Jordan. And by that time, at the end of my high school career, so I was looking for opportunities to get out of that situation, because it was realistically, it was like impossible to even go to a university there. So there was no other options except getting out of that situation. So I was lucky enough to find out about the scholarship in Beijing, that was offered by my school, the Field High School of Peking University. So I was just lucky enough to find out about it, and then I ended up applying for that scholarship. I got accepted. It was so exciting. I was like, I never like got excited in my life like that moment when I got accepted, when I got interviewed, and then when I put my foot, on the airplane to China. So that was the first time like going anywhere or even having a passport by that time. So I end up in Beijing. I can keep talking, for on and on forever, about that experience. It's been the most meaningful experience in my life. I've had people that like taught me a lot. I have people who, loved me and just opened their arms for me. So it was such like a very emotional and meaningful experience that have changed my life forever. So I ended up in China. It was a big challenge there, but all my teachers, all the students, everyone was excited. Everyone like supported me on like all levels, like academically, personally, everything. So after that, it was like a really it was a stressful time at the same time, because I was applying for a university. I was like adjusting with everything. Everything was just falling on my head, everything. But I managed to go through it, and of course, a big thank to all my teachers, like Dr. Gary here, I bothered him 24/7 in Beijing, Eileen, and Miss Spencer, all of them, were there for me 24 hours. I called them at night. They were up there, everything. So they were like a true family for me. So now, if someone asks me about my family, I would say I have a family, my real family, my biological family, and I have my family in China, who are the people who I love the most. So after that, it was a hard time, of course, applying for universities. Everything was uncertain, but I end up of course, a huge thank to Eileen, who helped me to find out about a scholarship in Northwestern University in Qatar. And then I got accepted. I got a full scholarship here, and now I'm here, first year student. I'm almost done with now. Next week I have finals. So this is without this opportunity in China, without this scholarship, it would have been fairly impossible to achieve what I've done so far. So this experience was really meaningful. Two experiences that one of the most like impactful experiences that I've had in my life in Beijing, where one of them was visiting the hospice in Dr. Gary's class. It was the English class, so we had a trip. We had like a regular visit to a hospice in Beijing. So we would go there and we would like share some of our time, some time with the elderly people there, and then we had to reflect on that. It was such like a very, very emotional experience when we had to be exposed to like a huge topics in life, like, you know, mortality. Like, who does that? So it was like a crazy experience for us. It was really, really impactful. And another experience was starting running in China. So I've started my running career 2 years ago when I met Dr. Gary for the first time, and then we've started like running together and the training. And then I've done one half marathon in China, and after that, when I came here, I've done a half marathon here in Doha like a couple months ago. And so this is like a very short but because there's like a limited time, but this is like just a little bit of my great experience in the affiliate high school, Peking University, and Dalton Academy.
I mean, so something we want to continue, obviously, is to support refugees around the world. And Hackham's done a great job, and Dr. Gary have done a great job, and others, to then educate people, and for us to connect and build a larger network that's going to support these people, these marginalized youth that Gary has already prior identified. We do have an Access scholarship, and we are looking for people to help us because we do have sort of modest means, and we're only able to bring one student a year. So we are looking for people to help us to continue that each and every year. So if people want to learn more about the Access scholarship and or donate, you can get in touch with Dr. Gary or Aileen or myself. And so here's our contacts. And we would also love to help you with any of the projects that you and your students are involved in.
Spencer, let me just jump in because, I mean, your program is so highly unusual. It's also so incredibly effective in a number of different ways. Dalton had an advantage over a typical school because you already had dormitory spaces for a certain percentage of your students. How could you project about how other schools might be able to develop a program like this, where you think the early adopters might be? Because I think that housing part is a stumbling block. And I know we've never talked about this question before, so this is what you get for making such a thorough presentation.
So boarding schools definitely would have an advantage. It would be easier for them since they have the space, but some schools—
Oh, like a private school, an independent school, that's a boarding school. Got it. Yeah.
There are schools that might do homestays, that might find families for them, or that might buy on into the process that will have someone that will take the family in as well. Because I've heard of schools doing that will find homestays, so that way they can integrate into the community even easier. And then having someone, you know, day and night speaking the language with them. And so there are homestays, but again, getting that buy-in is the most important. I think that if you can get buy-in, you will find a way.
And I would say, Gary, go ahead, sorry.
I would just say, you know, there are already subsidized scholarship programs like the Rotary Club scholarships that allow public schools in the United States to host international students. So even public schools that are not endowed or don't have residential facilities for their students can get creative in sort of designing social justice initiatives that involve international students and marginalized youth and refugee students.
And originally we did think of the age thing. Remember, Gary? Remember we were thinking of how old do we let them in? And so again, if they're 18, maybe they can, you know, find a place of their own, or they don't have to live on our campus. And that's a lot of the planning process.
I mean, we even needed to be creative with Hakim's stay, because he did share a room Monday to Thursday with other students, but then often they were away on the weekend, so then he was left alone. But then certain times of year, during Ramadan, we would give Hakim a space in the faculty dormitory. So then he had his own flat, his own apartment, so that he would be able to then stay up in the evenings or the early morning hours to then eat and then not disturb the other students that he was rooming with before. So we've had to be creative, and he wasn't just in one space. We had to think outside the box to then also accommodate him to make sure he and those that he was staying with were comfortable.
Mm-hmm. All right, cool. Adaptive all the way, right? Right. I'm looking at the clock, and I would like to pull Joel Grimm into this conversation. And on the surface of it, his program may sound like it's very different. But Joel, I'm going to pull you in from this point of view. So you can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. Yeah, thank you.
So, on the surface of it, you're a part of a university. But when you dial down, you've got a really robust K-12 program. It's a secondary school program, middle and high schools. But a key element of that is that you bring students to MIT for what, 4 weeks, 5 weeks?
4 weeks, yeah.
Ever put them up in the dormitories. While yours is not the same situation of responding to tragedy, it is a situation where you're bringing together students from lots of different states, some of whom are from privileged backgrounds, some of whom come from poverty backgrounds. This program, by the way, is free for everybody. There's no tuition for this. There's no dormitory costs. So for a poor kid growing up in Detroit, this could be a life changer. What do you see? And I know you're like bringing them like the best technology in the world, but let's talk about the social side of things. What do you see as the dynamics of bringing kids together from all sorts of places in terms of enhancing their learning, both for the focus on technology, but also for all the social aspects of living?
Yeah, that's a very good point. It's interesting. Hakim is a very tough act to follow. Thank you for that. But I think part of what comes to mind here is the fact that with project-based learning, there's really such a diversity in projects that people can learn with and use for learning. That's what's really the thing that jumps out at me, because while there's a lot of humanitarian initiatives at Dalton, at MIT being a much more engineering school, we're doing a lot more of the computer science and artificial intelligence. And that's where we're tending to focus on those, but we're still using the same techniques, project-based, right? Where students, if they want to create an autonomous car or learn how to program an autonomous car, we've got projects for that. But to address your question, Frank, right, the humanitarian part, right? This is maybe the first time that students are coming together and working as a team on some of these projects, because these projects are advanced. They're all college level projects. And it's not something that one student can do. And that's the key thing. There's so much work in the 4 weeks that it's really more than one student. And so it really makes them work together as a team, and they learn how to do that. Learn how to do that well so that they can participate and come up with to the final challenges. Because it's project-based learning, it's one thing to learn and work on a project, but unless there's a competition or challenge at the end, it becomes much more motivating when there is that final project at the end, whether it's getting into a college like Northwestern or Qatar or MIT for that matter. But our programs aren't designed to get students into MIT. They're designed to teach skills about working on teams, about using project-based learning, and the projects are all about the skills with computer science and data sciences, as well as the artificial intelligence. So, yeah.
So that social life dormitory experience kind of parallels the discussion we were having earlier today. I think it was like 2 hours ago with the two teachers from from Maine who were talking about the need to make it safe, to make everything feel safe for students, and to be able to be really good projects. It sounds to me also as though Dalton went out of its way to make Hakim's life safe and comfortable, as well as meaningful. Do you sense that for the students doing your summer programs, there are issues that get solved in their dormitories, or that they bring into their projects when they're in the academic spaces, that have to do with comfort, confidence, acceptance of others, and all of those social things that we know are at the top of good learning?
Yeah, it's interesting. We don't see a lot of problems with people causing trouble, I'll call it that, because we've got a very motivated group of students. They've all participated in an online course for the past few months prior to July, where they have to go through the prerequisites as an independent study. And they're very motivated. And because they're very motivated, they're very anxious to make progress, to have success, and to work together on these projects. So generally, we've got very motivated students, and that goes a long ways to them being very motivated as well to make teams to succeed. I think a lot of these students come away with lifelong friends, even in these 4 short weeks that we have them at MIT. It's going to be interesting this year doing all virtual programs, how much of that teaming building that we can do, and we're constantly thinking about how to do that in a virtual world, as I'm sure many of other people are as well, whether it's online games or participating together and maybe building a Minecraft world. There's something very much there that we want to be able to continue to do by building teams, which I think is a key part of our program through this project-based learning as well. So,
could you elaborate on that? Because on one hand, that comment of yours about the shift, first of all, you're going to run your summer program again, but you're going to shift it to a virtual program. So on one hand, that's topical for the year 2020. But on the other hand, I wonder whether whatever you do to figure out how to do this, and I can't even conceive how you take a face-to-face experience of building a virtual race car or an autonomous race car and competing with others. I have no clue how you can capture that. A lot of schools don't have facilities, don't have teachers who are trained in teaching this kind of work. Is it conceivable that a web-based platform could take the excitement and visceralness of the programs you've developed and be able to get it to people that are going to do it in their hometowns?
I'm going to say yes, because we're trying to do that, but I'm also going to say ask me again in August at the next PBL conference. I can give you results about how we did. So there's no question the online course is going to be different than the actual course. But I think the race car is just one course that we're doing. We've got a total of 7 courses, and the other ones are much more software-centric, data science-centric, from building machine learning apps for medical data analysis, for detecting like abnormal heart rhythms, right? There's another course called Autonomous Cognitive Assistant, where the students are learning about machine learning and natural language processing so that they can build their own Amazon Alexas. And what that gives them too, now that becomes inquiry-based, because they're now looking around themselves, and past projects have included from applications that understand hand gestures, which obviously has applications to sign language, a study buddy, so that as their laptop camera is staring at their face, if their eyes close for too long, they start a playlist that wakes them up, to something that's looking at tweets and detecting when bullying is occurring, right? These are all using kind of those neural networks and machine learning technology, and the students are building applications based on the needs that they see. And I think that's part of the key thing here, is finding that something that's key to the students, right? What drives them, what motivates them, and trying to give them the skills so that they can build their own application to fill a need that they see.
Okay, great. Those are good characterizations. So we're running out of time. Let me lob one more question at Joel, and then I've got to get it back to the Dalton folks. So as you are formulating your concepts for summer virtual STEM learning, robotics, etc., have you thought about those issues, about how students can collaborate with each other at a distance? And in this case, we're talking about students, I mean, viscerally collaborate with each other. And we're talking about students who've never met each other.
Right, right.
I mean, the example with Oxford Hills in Morocco was that these kids knew each other from the daytime, from normal school, but you're going to have kids who've never met each other. How are you going to do that?
We're probably going to be using Zoom calls like this, but you know, we've all got our bag of tricks for the get to know you games, and it's we'll yet to see how well those get to know you games work over a Zoom call as opposed to in person. But the tidbit about yourself, all those get to know you games, right? I think they're going to work just as well online in a forum like this as they do when they're a real person. But that's always been key to the program, that the fact that they've got a chance to get through these get to know you games that are essentially led and motivated by either teaching assistants or instructors or our residential counselors that we've had in the past. So.
Mm-hmm. So that's during the period before they're actually selected to traditionally come to the campus. This would be done in the next, what month are we, April? So April through June, that's when that's being done?
No, most of that's done the first week of the program.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. Up until
right.
I think our enrollment acceptances are going out on May 15th. And we've probably got about 100 applications submitted already for the July program, and we'll see where it goes. It's very exciting to see the number of courses there. I do want a quick post in the chat window here, some links. One of the things, because we're at MIT, we're developing a lot of open courses, and want to post some links out there for some of the courses that we've developed and want to make available for other people to use. Since MIT is very much an educational institution, there's a long history of open learning and open courseware, and making these things available. I want to make sure that I get those out there as well too. So,
yeah, and I'll just underscore that. So Joel and his crew have developed a STEM curriculum, basically taking MIT standards, and it's for K-12 educators. So latch on to that. And I think actually he's looking for teachers to be beta testers on it, trial it out, improve the breed, and keep it going. So that's a great use of technology. STEM are some of the most powerful ways of doing project-based learning. So it's a great avenue for everyone listening here to take. If I could, I was just going to comment, Joel, that your notion of get to know you games sounds exactly like Pete Toohey and Brewster Burns were talking about an hour or two ago, about spending the first month of their project-based learning face-to-face time with kids getting to know each other and feel safe with each other, with some kids feeling frustrated because, hey, we're not getting to the content that we're supposed to, and not knowing that when they know each other better, they will go faster in terms of resolving their project problems. So I see real parallels here between what you're doing and what our earlier PBL experts said they were doing. So I've got one question I'm going to lob back to the Dalton folks. So your school, I characterized it at the beginning as a school where students are doing self-initiated projects 80% of the time in their last year of school. And they're doing it in the previous years, but only not to the same extent. Gary commented, or maybe it was Aileen commented, that this idea of bringing over a scholar from war-torn, Middle East was brought to you by the students. And I mean, I've always thought that the administrators thought this up. So, and it probably characterizes Dalton as the kind of place where students have a voice and where the administrators are listening. Yes, you had to act on it, and yes, you had to get it organized and all of that stuff, but somewhere in here, this value, this humanitarian value came to you because of your students. Can you talk about what,
Frank,
what your culture is like, how it empowers that, and then in specifics, and can they have
30
more minutes?
In 30
Oh,
seconds.
okay. Sorry, guys, go for it. Oh, you want Gary to do it? Spencer?
Oh, no,
mute?
Spencer muted, so I've unmuted him. There he goes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So definitely, so the students get a voice, and you know, it was their team that came together, and then afterwards we listened. It was definitely this way, and it wasn't a hierarchy going down. It was definitely brought up from the students.
I mean,
I would just quickly say that 12 students went to Jordan in the fall, last fall, and they are the most militant cohort yet about expanding the scholarship, and they're all furious with Spencer for not allowing more scholarships.
I think so. The experiment, you know, with trying to figure out new ways to teach and figure out how faculty and students can continue to then contribute to then different areas and disciplines. Our job is to also look at how can we re-engineer what the administration looks like, and our job is to then support the students and support the faculty, and again, keep this other traditional stuff, this other traditional education stuff away. So I mean, I'm there to shelter and then listen to them and try to figure out who could help us to realize these different initiatives from the students. So to encourage and continue with that passion, keep that fire ignited, and then to see how can we make the impossible happen. I mean, that's our job, really, you know. So it's a bottom up. I mean, so we've reversed the roles, and that's what keeps people excited. That's what keeps people wanting to stay within the program and others to contribute and be a part of it.
Yeah. Okay, Spencer, you've kept your title as the best high school in the world. Thank you.
Thank you all. And I'm reflecting on the irony of being someone who constantly advocates for giving kids enough time to go deep into their learning. And here we are saying, sorry, you have 30 seconds.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Joel, thanks for all those links. Those links are great,
yes,
Joel. Thank you.
Yes. So thank you so much. And we're going to hear from Dalton 2 more times before the end of the day, or well, the end of the day somewhere in the world. So
thank you, Hakan.
We'll make a transition here, and we have 2 folks from Kansas and 2 folks from Ohio that are joining us next.